Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Listen, Mauricio Sulaiman is shady. Let me tell you, the WBC, everything they got going on with this Earl Spence, Keith Thurman stuff is shady. Shady, shady, shady. For all of you guys out there, let me tell you, y'all going to be sad, sad, sad. Listen, Sulaiman can't even say what Earl Spence's plans are. I just watched the Boxing Voice, right? The podcast, right? Sulaiman was on there. He asked that man, how in the world are they having this fight between Spence and Thurman? Thurman being the WBC mandatory. Is it a title? Is it non-title? Sulaiman's like, we'll have to see what's going to happen if Thurman was to win. If he wants to come back down to 147. Sulaiman talking about he can't speculate on what's going to happen, but, he just has to wait and see. What is Sulaiman talking about? Speculating. He's the WBC president, right? He can't say why they arranged for Spence and Thurman to fight at 154, non-title. But then they go on and when they ask him what happens if Thurman wins, then he says they'll have to wait and see on whether he decides to stay at 154 or come down to 147. If it's either for the titles or it's not for the titles. And then they ask him about Earl Spence. Let me tell you, Sulaiman, you can tell he's not trying to divulge much information, right? So he's dodging those questions. He's doing a great job at dodging those questions. But he did say we have to wait and see if Earl Spence is going to stay at 154. Let me tell y'all, Earl Spence isn't staying at 154. They asked Sulaiman about the WBO. Hey, can't you go over there, talk to the key decision makers over there at the WBO and kind of force a fight between Spence and Crawford? Sulaiman, it's like he had peanut butter in his mouth. Yep. Like he didn't know what to say. Because there have been instances where they were able to force fights with the WBC fighter and fighters underneath other sanctioning bodies. So that's not uncommon. It's been done before. Sulaiman wasn't really trying to answer those questions. But I'm telling y'all right now, I've been saying it. They're trying to force Spence and trying to force Thurman out of the welterweight division. Crawford. They want Crawford and Spence out the welterweight division. I'm telling you. And in addition to that, there are fighters. Let me tell you, it's all coming together. You got fighters who are in place and they have title elimination bouts. They have all this crap going on, man. Interim title, mandatory. They're fighting for the mandatory position. All this is going on, right? And the IBF, WBA, and the WBC. They know, and they've known for months, that Spence is not going to continue campaigning at 147. Spence is at 154, and that's the end of that. So, like we've been saying, those guys, the Cody Crowley, right? Whoever he's going to fight for the WBC. I'm coming like a broken record now. Then you look at the IBF, Jerron Ennis and Villa, right? Then whatever's going to happen over there with the WBA between Stan Eunice and Ortiz. So what's going to happen? The winner of Stan Eunice and Ortiz, because that's going to be vacant. They're going to become the WBA champion because Spencer's going to drop that belt. The winner of, I got to see what they may have. Keith, I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm just talking if Earl Spence was to win, then Crowley and whoever he's fighting, they're going to become they're going to fill that vacant WBC strap. They're going to pick that up. And the winner of Ennis and Villa, they're going to be the one to become the IBF champion. They're going to pick up that vacant belt. That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you. This is crazy. And then the WBO is just going to have Crawford there just kind of hanging out. Now, if Keith Thurman was to win, let me tell you if Keith Thurman was to win, there's supposedly no titles on the line. Look, how are you going to have Keith Thurman fight Earl Spence in a non-title fight and then come and say if Keith Thurman was to win, then we'll have to take a look at, at that time, what we want to do and what his intentions are moving forward as far as whether the fight is a title or non-title. Now you gotta be kidding me. You know what I'm saying? You had to wait to see if he wins to decide if it's going to be a title or non-title fight? That's crazy. Even the guy over at the Boxing Voice, he looking, he wants to ask tough questions, but you can tell he's not built for it tough. You know what I'm saying? He had a perplexed look on his face like, what? But, he should have kept pressing him. But at the same time, Sulaiman, he's not just your average Joe. There's a certain amount of respect you got to show, and you want to make sure he wants to come back on your show. And I'm sure there's some conversations that they can have. Have a sidebar at the end of the podcast. But I'm telling y'all right now, you listen to what that man was saying and what he wasn't saying. Earl Spence, he's not fighting at 147 no more. Win or lose. And if Keith Thurman wins, you'll watch they do something funky, making Keith the unified champion. And then Keith could end up being the guy they push at Crawford. Or if not, Keith Thurman will be the guy if he fights at 147, where he has to go there and fight a Boots Stennis, fight a Cody Crowley if he wins, fight a Stan Eunice or Ortiz, whichever one wins. Like, that's really, look, wherever Earl Spence faces, as far as the footprint he created in the welterweight division, just take Keith Thurman's face and replace Spence. Like, that's the direction this is going. I'm telling y'all, man. And what sucks is Crawford is just there in the breeze. You're not going to get the fight, I'm telling you, man. It does not look like we're going to get that fight between Spence and Crawford. I was sitting there watching that podcast, man. I just jumped off after Mauricio Sulaiman talked about the WBC stuff and Keith Thurman and Spence. I said, this is horrible. Now, if you didn't see it, they're still in the talking, man. It's about to probably conclude here in a little bit. Horrible. The first, 12 minutes of the podcast, that's when they start talking about it. Absolute madness, man. But that being said, I'm going to go and try to catch the rest of it. But let me tell you something. I don't even have any words for this. The WBC president talking about he doesn't want to speculate on what they're going to do depending on if Spence wins or if Thurman wins. We have to wait and see if they're going to campaign at 147 or stay at 154. Then we'll have to take a look at what we're going to do with the titles if Thurman was to win, and so we'll have to have a discussion. A discussion about what? Watch what happens. If Thurman beats Spence, Thurman's going to become the unified. So for those of you who are agitated now and confused now, get ready to become even more agitated and even more confused with the fight build-up and if Thurman was to win the fight. Don't get me wrong. I get it. Earl Spence is a favorite. I get it. I understand, and I agree. But at the same time, there's a little sliver of a chance that Thurman, bing, 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 to Spence early in that fight, we could have, Keith Thurman back. Mr. Don't Duck Me son is back. Now, I'm not making this up. I'm just trying to fill the gaps, but I can't give you anything definitive because it's crazy, man. Mauricio Sulaiman is saying you got to wait and see what happens and who wins, and he doesn't want to speculate. What the hell are you talking about? Damn, he can't even talk about the WBC. He's the WBC president. Because he, the WBA, the IBF, are in cahoots, and they're trying to get rid of Earl Spence. And they also want Crawford up out of there. They keep saying they want that fight, the undisputed fight, but they're doing, and almost like they're doing everything to preclude that. He didn't even address that 60-day window. That 60-day window, like I was talking about in my live last night. You got 2 months, right? You got 8 weeks, right? Anybody who knows anything when you're trying to get something done. 8 weeks, 4 weeks of that. Communication, ineffective communication. So really, they got 30 days to try to make a deal. And with these guys, they're going to want to start over from day one in the negotiations and starting at the 50% point and just coming out and just pick up from there. That's not what's going to happen. So I'm telling y'all, roadblock after roadblock are being set in place to prevent that whole Spence and Crawford. And I'm telling you, Spence and this weight struggle, Spence and everybody, fans turning on him, Spence out here with everything else going on, Derek James taking on Anthony Joshua, all the distractions, coming off another car accident. Mentally, I think Spence is stressing. I know how he feels about what he has to put his body through physically, even to get to 154. But I just think the stars are lining up for Keith Thurman to pull off the upset. I don't want to hear nothing about no body attack and all that. You know, that's 101 conversation. All right, any elementary boxing fan could sit there and say, "Oh, well, what about Spence's body attack?" Like, peel the layers back if you're gonna come in and throw something at me. All right, we already know Spence it comes to the body. He's really probably the true body snatcher, not no crazy ass big mouth Dillian White. But at the same time, to get to that body, gotta assume some risk. And I just think those risks he's trying to assume is not going to be worth it because Thurman, early in that fight, has his legs. He's strong. He moves laterally. He fights with his eyes. He's a good counterpuncher. And he's going to touch Spence. And I don't care what no one says. Spence is chinny. He's tough, but he's chinny. And if Thurman catches him, I'm just telling y'all, I think Spence should win the fight. But I really think early in that fight it's going to be a problem. But after round 6 or so, it's going to be all downhill for Thurman because if he starts to tire and he can't put a dent in Spence, I just can't see Spence, not being able to just keep becoming stronger and stronger. The rounds go on because that's what he does in every fight. But that being said, more to come. Y'all need to watch. Y'all need to go and watch that damn podcast and see what the hell Sulaiman saying. You're gonna be disgusted. I'm telling you right now. And it just shows you that they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants and they're waiting to do what suits them. They're not trying to follow rules. They're not worried about boxing fans. They're worried about themselves. And I'm talking about these sanctioning bodies. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, people from all 7 continents. In the breeze.